Howdy! Hi, everybody. Sam Goodman. Really fucking scary stories. How are you doing today? I hope that things are going absolutely wonderful for you wherever you find yourself in this big, really neat, really cool, really fun, really weird, really wonky, really creepy, macabre, murdery, paranormally world. Thank you for joining us today. Before we jump into today's episode, do me a favor, scroll down, look at the show notes, and check out my YouTube channel, Sam Goodman. If you can't get to the show notes, just search Sam Goodman. You'll see my ugly mug. Share with me, please share with me your questions, your stories of the paranormal, of true crime, of really weird, wonky, or macabre things that you've experienced in your life. It is rfsspod@gmail.com. That's rfsspod@gmail.com. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you for all of your love, all of your support. It means the absolute world for us. One of the biggest things that you can do to support the podcast is just whatever you're listening to us on, just scroll down. You see like those star things? Just give us like 5 of those. Yeah, like 5. Or if you've got a few extra minutes, just leave us a review. Or head over to the merch shop. Check out some of the stuff we've got over there. Or if you're into like books and stuff like that, go check out some of the books that I've written. Those are all available on Amazon and then, social media and all the other things, all the other stuff where you can just find people doing internet-y things. That's kind of where I'm at. So let's just jump into today's episode right now. Today, we're talking more really fucking scary stories from my homeland, the Appalachian Mountains. Appalachian! It's Appalachian! Just please do me a favor. Anyone that's listening to this that's not from the Appalachian Mountains, it's not from that part of the country, stop saying Appalachian. It's not Appalachian. Just pull the pinky back in. You get your pinky out. Saying Appalachian Mountain. Appalachian. Okay, so I've said this before, but please, please, we make fun of you a lot when you say Appalachian. Okay, so the Appalachian Mountains are some of the oldest mountains on Earth, and it shows. If these mountains and valleys could talk, you could just imagine maybe some of the stories that they would share with you, and that's exactly what we're going to dive into. We're going to kind of like run and gun and just go through kind of high level some of the stories that exist from this region, some of the really fucking scary legends and tales and etc., all of the above that come out of these mountains. We've already talked about some of the Appalachian kind of superstitions and some of those things in a previous episode, but today we're going to primarily talk about some lore, some legends, some stories. In the days of the old covered wagon, when they camped on the flats for the night, when the moon shining dim over the old canyon rim, they watched for the brown mountain light. High on the mountain and down in the valley below, it shines like the crown of an angel and fades as the mist come and go. You guessed it, we're going to talk about the brown mountain lights here for just a second. And so this first story is one primarily of mystery. The odd and alluring brown mountain lights are a supernatural phenomenon that have been the inspiration for tons and tons of songs and folk music. That's how in the Appalachian Mountains, we primarily passed stories down through song. That's a whole nother story about bluegrass and song thievery and kind of all this stuff that eventually turned into country music, the birthplace of country music, not being Nashville, being Bristol, Tennessee / Virginia, because it's one of those cool cities. It's got the state road thing that's the line, the middle of the road. You know what I'm talking about. You've probably been there. It's cool. There's a whole State Street thing there. Just Google it. Google Bristol, VA, Bristol, TN. Super cool. Birthplace of country music. Side rant. Not Nashville. But I was reading from you some of the lyrics from Brown Mountain Light. That's a song. That's a bluegrass song. I went and pulled those lyrics off of bluegrasslyrics.com if you're interested in finding all your bluegrass lyrics needs. I guess not a sponsor. But these mysterious lights can be found in Burke County, North Carolina. I've always had trouble with this. I think so where I'm from, we'd call this Pisgah. It's Pisgah, so it's probably Pisgah. But so Pisgah National Forest. Tales of these lights have been recorded for centuries, but no one has yet to really uncover what is causing this phenomenon. There have been multiple versions of the lights' origin stories throughout the years. There's some legends that stem from the native Cherokee people where it's told that the lights are actually the souls of women who are searching for the men they lost in a war on Brown Mountain. In the 19th century, another version of the story claims that the lights were the spirit of a young woman who was murdered by her husband. And in a country music song back to sharing really fucking scaries through musical tunes, this country song from the early 1950s, a version of the story tells us of a man who went hunting on the mountain and never returned. In this legend, a slave was sent to search for the missing man, but neither of them, either one, they were never seen again, and the lights are said to be the light of the lantern used to continue the search from beyond the grave. Today, this song is, I think, deemed as a little problematic because it kind of romanticizes slavery a little bit, which is kind of bad. Not kind of, that's really fucking bad. So I've never listened to this song, so I couldn't tell you. I unearthed it while going through some of this research. Even the U.S. Geological Survey investigated the myths surrounding the lights, and in 1922, they published an extensive report concluding that the lights were a combination of automobile and locomotive lights from natural brush fires, or light emitted from other explainable sources. While the study might be correct for the time, the legend does date back much farther than the time of automobiles, and the lyrics in the song state in the days of the old covered wagon, leading one to believe that the mystery may have been around for much, much longer. So even though sightings of the lights are kind of more rare nowadays, many people still flock to the mountains to try to catch a little peek, a little glimpse of the Brown Mountain lights. So, if we're talking about the Appalachian region, this one's going to come up. We've talked about this on previous episodes. I'm almost certain I'd have to go back and look. Again, we're on season 4. How freaking crazy is that? But it's the Bell Witch. It's the Bell Witch. And what are the mountains without witches, right? I mean, come on, that's a huge part of some of the lore around the mountains. And this is arguably the most famous witch, at least from our region, and it comes out of the state of Tennessee, right? It's a very familiar tale nowadays in American folklore, and the main story takes place in the early 1800s when John Bell and his family moved from North Carolina to Tennessee. Bell was like this super successful farmer, but his family was burdened by these weird and strange and just fucking creepy, unexplainable things happening, and basically they were haunted and terrorized for several years. The first notable events started around 1817 when Bell saw a strange creature in the fields. So he's like, what the fuck is that? I don't know. That's like a really strange creature hanging out in my fields. And so during this time, they started getting all these weird, unfamiliar noises in the house. They started to experience terrifying, weird, haunting-ish things, voices, afflictions, people being pinched, hit by some invisible entity, and much, much, much more. All of these activities were blamed on what became known as the Bell Witch, who seemed to primarily be focused on Father John Bell and daughter Betsy, and eventually Bell died from what was claimed to be poisoning by the witch. Betsy broke her engagement to a young man based on the witch's actions as well. So it's a really, 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 really interesting story. If you don't know the Bell Witch, you need to go read stuff about the Bell Witch. Every kind of paranormal investigator has done stuff around the Bell Witch Cave. You can go check out, obviously Ghost Adventures, all those folks. There's lots of information out there about the Bell Witch. If that's something that interests you should definitely go check out that. And that brings us back to the birthplace of country music. And no, again, it's not Nashville. It's not Nashville. It is Bristol, Tennessee/Virginia. Again, really cool place. I just encourage folks to go back, and if you have time to explore this region, if you just want to go do like some cool trips, you're not from there, go check it out. But this is kind of the first ghost of Bristol, and the story is set in 1854. There's a man named John H. Moore who owned a small store and a little smokehouse located near Lee and Moore Streets in Bristol. And while in preparation for opening the new store, the family made arrangements to dig a new well. One morning, Miss Moore went to the smokehouse with a butcher knife and was alarmed to see the apparition of what appeared to be a Native American spirit who was advancing towards her as if to attack. The spirit disappeared and was never seen again, and the knife also disappeared after the incident. Miss Moore then protested the digging of the new well, saying that the spirit she saw was a warning to not disturb this area. Chalking this up to simple superstitions, John Moore proceeded with the digging, and sure enough, after the well was dug, a Native American grave was found on the site. While this might seem like just like a simple ghost story, it's one of the first ever recorded in Bristol, Virginia / Tennessee, making it worthy of being on our list of Appalachian lore, ghost tales, creepy, macabre things. I just got to tell you, I love my homeland. I love where I come from. There are just a ton of these stories out there, and we could go on and on and on forever, and I'm sure that we'll do some more episodes around the Appalachian Mountains in the near future. Go read some stuff. There's lots of great books out there on the lore from this region, again kind of encompassing that the tip of Virginia down there, that the Appalachian Mountains run through the tip of Virginia that I'm from, just down in the tip, obviously is those parts of Tennessee and kind of down into North Carolina, all that area, right? That area is kind of my old stomping grounds, and there's just tons and tons and tons and tons of just really neat lore and superstitions and ghost stories and all that stuff that was passed down kind of through song and through just oral storytelling that was super interesting. Even if you just go back and listen to like some of those like old mountain songs that you might call it bluegrass nowadays, but just that old mountain music, all those songs, like they're pretty fucking gnarly, right? They're all about like, she got stabbed and thrown in the river and the crows picked her body until we found her bones later, and then that was real sad. Like all the songs are primarily about like ghosts and Brown Mountain Lights and murders, and like there's just a lot of that. There's just a lot of that. So if that's the kind of stuff you're into, again, just go do like some Googling, go pick up a book. I've got a couple books on the area, and they're just great. Every town has a ghost story book. So I'll tell you, the mountains are a beautiful, amazing place full of beautiful and amazing and diverse people, but they're also full of really fucking scary stories. Have you had a really fucking scary experience? Have you seen a ghost? Have you been on a macabre adventure? Would you like to share it on air? Would you like for us to tell that story? Or you just have something horrid that you would like for us to talk about? Send us an email at rfsspod, that's rfsspod at gmail.com. Make sure that you subscribe. New episodes come out every single Friday. We look forward to continuing this creepy, crawly, morbid, macabre, and grotesque adventure with you, the listener. We love you, and we will see you soon. Thank you for joining us today on our trip into the dark. We hope that you join us again next week for all things horror, all things macabre, all things grotesque, here on Really Fucking Scary Stories.